Hey, Minorcan Navy. Just want to give you guys a little bit of report from St. Simons in the immediate area on the status with Nicole. Of course, now is a tropical storm and kind of moving north. This is earlier this morning at St. Simons. Things started out not too bad. Of course, local news folks were there out on the St. Simons Pier, or as close as they could get to the pier because the pier was closed today. They were out gathering some footage and stuff from St. Simons. We were expecting 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. That's what the National Hurricane Center had kind of said, you guys get prepared. You're probably going to see that. And I'd say we came pretty close to seeing it. Now down on the east side of the island, seas started kicking up. This was probably around 9:30ish. This was on an incoming tide. High tide was supposed to be just about 10 o'clock this morning, but we started seeing some tides really coming up higher than what we normally expect, earlier than what we should have expected, and they continued to come even after high tide had come and passed. The tide was still incoming. The wind that we've been having for the past probably going on more than 24 hours now just continued to push that water in onto the beaches and the estuaries here at St. Simons. We're just filled up. Down at the St. Simons Marina, which is where the Minorcan Mullet lives, you guys just take a note here. This water was just starting to breach over the top of the fixed dock, and we can see those gangways that go down to the floating docks were up in the air. Now we have floating docks here because they have to go up and down with the tide, and these gangways kind of adjust, but you can see, you're not stepping off the end of that thing. The tide continued to come up to the point this whole area just becomes completely flooded, and this was past what should have been high tide, but the tide continued to roll in. You could actually look out across the river there towards the mainland, and you could see the tide just being continually pushed in well after it was supposed to have been going out. As all this water continued to pile up, St. Simons Island Causeway was eventually shut down along with the Sea Island Causeway. We did see some flooding, and one of the biggest issues as you kind of look back, that's looking back towards Brunswick, marsh rack. Marsh rack is just the reeds that make up the marsh grass in our system. When it dies and kind of breaks away from the living grass, it'll collect together and make these rafts of reeds. And I call that marsh rack. And as the tides was pushed up over the causeway, this marsh rack got onto the causeway and completely shut it down. They had to get crews out. This is a shot of the St. Simons Causeway coming on to St. Simons, and there you can see that marsh rack just stacked up there, that debris, and all that had to be cleared away before they could open the causeway, which they did about 1:30ish. And this was on the mainland, right at the end of St. Simons Causeway. And you guys can see this traffic kind of zipping by. And that's not rainwater. That is salt water that's been pushed up through the drain system into the streets. So kind of rough to see folks just driving through the salt water. But here's a few shots of some of the flooding that was sent to us, and some we kind of captured off some images of from social media. But some areas got it worse than others. From what I saw today, I wouldn't say it was as bad as Irma, but it was pretty close. But we had a lot of water, and then again we will have a high tide again tonight. While the storm is continuing to die, it's getting closer. So we're hoping for the best of folks in the low-lying areas, and things work out.